So within the program of Interreg Tech, we were interested on one of the innovative part of transition of mobility and transportation. We were interested, in fact, in the retrofit. I'm going to explain to you later on what it is. And it's about switching from thermal vehicles to EVs. These studies were made by a design office, Element Sistra, and it's about all the countries over OECS. And we made a focus on 3 territories, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent. This is the first milestone, the first study about the feasibility of the electrical retrofit in these territories. To carry out this study, we were first of all interested in the consumption, on the mixed energy consumption of the different countries. And also we were interested in what was the situation of transportation in these countries. Concerning the characteristics of energy, they are quite similar in these different countries. Just like in Guadeloupe and Martinique, unfortunately, we still depend a lot on fuel energies to produce energy and to produce power. Today, the average is 10% of renewable energy in the electrical mix in the OECS countries. So this implies that the greenhouse gases are very important. It's around 700 grams of CO2 per kilowatt per hour. In the other similar characteristics, the ambition is strong to develop renewable energies in all these territories. Concerning the transportation, we made the same observations on these territories with a large majority of vehicles, individual vehicles and SUVs in the fleet of vehicles in the different countries, with a quite low penetration rate, as we saw in Guadeloupe, of EVs for the moment, with 230 EVs for the moment in St. Lucia, only four in St. Kitts, and 3 or very little also in the other island. So you can see the proportions of individual vehicles in blue with SUVs, and then public transportation with the different colors. You can see this is quite low. The rate of equipment is very low on these different territories. So what does retrofit mean? It means replacing an engine with fuel by an electrical engine. We keep the body of the vehicle, we just change the engine. And in our study, we wanted to compare the action of retrofitting a vehicle versus buying a brand new EV vehicle. This is the basis of our assumption. With and the benefit of the retrofit being that we will have less waste to manage with the vehicles versus if you just get rid of an old vehicle to buy a brand new one. We create labor, we create local jobs with a retrofit, because the action is carried out on the territories, the action of transforming the vehicles. Of course, we will reduce the imports and bearing in mind the energy impact. And of course, we will reduce the pollution. We reduce the impact on the needs of new material to build new vehicles. Concerning the methodology of the study, we wanted to target very specific targets. We did not study the retrofit for the whole fleet because it did not make sense really for our study, but we wanted to have a few characteristics like technical feasibility, whether it is simple or complex to transform vehicles based on the number of kilometers, the visibility, because the idea is to create a branch and we have to be visible and to get a return on experience. So we decided to choose to target only the buses and taxis that were present on the territories to start this retrofit branch activity. So out of the 3 territories where we carried out the study, it's about 2,600 vehicles in total on the 3 territories. And then once we targeted this fleet, this panel, the methodology was to create several scenarios. As I told you, scenarios doing with retrofit and buying a brand new EVs. 5 scenarios. One scenario, we don't do anything. We just keep our thermal vehicles for 30 years, which is the duration of the study. Scenario number 2, after 15 years, we will change the vehicle, the diesel vehicle, into an electrical one without retrofit. The 3rd one, we do some retrofit. Number 4, we buy EVs. So I don't have time to give you all the details of all these assumptions, but the duration, you should know that the duration is quite long. It's about 30 years. And then we screened, we looked at different criteria, economical, environment, and all the collateral impact due to this transformation, depending on the different scenarios. Here we have the example of the economical part, where we compared the TCO, which is the total cost of ownership of the vehicle, including investments when you buy it, the energy cost during the cycle life of the vehicle, the maintenance cost, which is quite frequent when we talk about mobility. And if we compare this total cost of ownership over 30 years, we can see that with a retrofit, it's roughly equivalent to an ownership cost similar to a thermal vehicle. And with the duration, it's inferior to the buying of EV. So this is quite positive. It means that the retrofit is very relevant economically, at least on these territories, for a bus, for an electrical bus. In these assumptions, the retrofit cost is $250,000 US dollars for a bus that is retrofitted. It's a 10-meter long bus versus buying a brand new vehicle, electrical one. It's $570,000. And for a diesel bus, traditional one, it's $150,000. So these are figures given at random, just to show you the methodology that was used in our study. Of course, this economical part depends a lot on the energy cost, plus the fuel aspect. The more fuel we will use, the more the profitability will be for the retrofit. And from an economical point of view, we assessed we assess that there will be jobs created. From an environment point of view, we can observe a reduction in the CO2 emissions during the whole cycle life of the project, not only the direct CO2 emissions generated by the vehicle when it is running, when it is working, but we are including CO2 emissions from O to Z, from A to Z, including the process, the recycling process at the end of its cycle life. So beyond the impact, positive impact, the environment impact, plus the economical impact, also depend a lot on the development of renewable energies. We use the assumption with a penetration rate of renewable fuels, important one by 2030 for these territories. So this is why we take stock of the situation. The projection for 2030, the results are very positive concerning the retrofit. And then other thing that could not be assessed in our study, unfortunately, it was outside the scope, but we have to check, as Raisa said before, we have to assess the impact of additional electricity demand on the infrastructure, on the equipment, installations. But when we think about this retrofit study, it doesn't have a direct link with a retrofit. It has a link with the transition of the vehicles from when you switch from these vehicles to the EVs. So the same questions will be asked, with or without retrofit. Now, the idea of this study was, first of all, to check the impact, possible impact on the environment and on the economy. And then we also wanted to build the beginning of a branch to be more operational for the territories that we studied. And we determined scenarios and roadmaps, taking into account the cost of the implementation of the branch, the feasibility, technical feasibility, political aspects, the political involvement that are necessary in the creation of jobs. And here we can see an example coming from the study. Based on the different roadmaps, we may have more or less strong impact on these four parameters with the different pictograms with different colors. The yellow ones, average, green, it's positive, and red is rather moderate impact, moderate effect. I will not have time to give you all the details, so I will invite you to look at the results of our study to know more about it. But this will depend, these parameters will depend on, are we going to develop kit locally on the territories, like having complete branches on the territories, real development on site locally, or will we benefit from what is going on in other countries and benefit from them to do it locally? Well, jobs should be created. And honestly, these are different types of jobs and not the same number. So these are things we have to go into detail a bit more based on the directions that will be taken. And today, what we think is that to start this, these countries have to choose really a type of vehicle. Ideally, they should choose a type of vehicle to have pilot projects, to communicate on them, to get financial support. And then for us, it will be the first milestone to start implementing a more important branch on these territories. So it was really a quick review of the results of the studies, which are much more detailed than what I said. But clearly, in the end, the retrofit of EVs makes sense on our territories. It has positive impact on our territories, and we should see this as a milestone toward the transition in mobility to get prepared to a new market, a new emerging market of EVs. Well, I was quick. Thank you very much.